Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Cyber Business Daily for December 13th, 2024. Happy Friday. I am broadcasting from out of doors today, so you might hear a little nature sounds, and I hope that that just enhances uh, you as you move into a fabulous weekend. Today, we're going to be talking about two really exciting topics that I kind of went down a rabbit hole with after I started looking into them. But normally I would try to do like three or four pieces, but we're just going to do two today because there's just so much meat there. First of all, I'm going to be talking about Lloyd's of London and their new consortium with High Trust. And I'm going to use the opportunity to break down a little bit about what High Trust is and what it does, and sort of why this consortium is something that Lloyd's thinks or hopes will make them some money in what's been sort of a rocky cyber insurance marketplace over the last couple of years. I'm also going to look into the Sophos acquisition of Dell SecureWorks, a really classic name in the cybersecurity industry. This took place a little earlier this year, so we're moving ahead a little bit from yesterday's acquisition talk, and I'm looking forward to this one because we've got some real classic industry names to discuss. Today, first we'll start with the Lloyd's of London news. As I mentioned, Lloyd's of London said yesterday it would partner with the risk management company High Trust. Now, if you're not familiar with High Trust, it should be it's in all caps and it's written out in if you can kind of visualize it, since we're just over voice here, you'll know what I'm talking about. They are looking to provide a consortium that can help companies and subscribers to both go through the process of certification with High Trust, and through that certification to get lower cyber insurance premiums. And we'll talk a little bit about why that might actually be a very interesting proposal. So, first of all, I'm going to back in a little bit by discussing what High Trust is and how it makes money. So, to understand this consortium, there are all of these different types of companies that I am definitely not an insurance expert, although I in the cyber insurance side of things, I certainly have expertise, but I'm not an expert in insurance. And so whenever I go to write about cyber insurance or do a story on it, there are all of these different kind of threads that surprise me a little bit. And in the insurance world, there are all kinds of different companies. Once you get into underwriting and sub-insurance policies and all of these other different functions that are adjacent to the insurance industry, that play actually a very significant role. And High Trust is one of those companies. So how do they make money? First of all, they're based in Frisco, Texas. It's an American company. They're a private company, and it's a for-profit. It's not like a nonprofit, one of these groups that does certifications as a nonprofit. So it's a Texas-based for-profit company that develops licenses and proprietary cybersecurity and compliance framework. Altogether, their framework is known as the High Trust CSF framework, and that's what they're famous for. CSF stands for Common Security Framework. Now, the company functions as a certification body and develops standards around especially security and cybersecurity frameworks. So they use security frameworks in their standards. Those include NIST and ISO, which, if you're an expert of any type in this industry and you're on the call, you're familiar with NIST and ISO. I'm not going to go too in depth on that because this is a little bit more for people who are in the field, but those are pretty easy to look up as well if you're not familiar with some of these acronyms that I might throw out. So they also use regulations like GDPR and HIPAA. And again, I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about there. So they generate revenue through the certification process in a number of ways. They collect certification fees, of course, as organizations seek out the certification for various reasons. They license the High Trust CSF. They have a consulting and advisory practice, as almost all of these companies do to some degree. They have software and platform fees, and as it as it relates to what we're talking about here, they have assessment firm partnerships and independent assessment firm partners. Those they pay fees to be accredited and conduct high trust audits and certification on behalf of client companies. I'm not sure exactly because a lot of the stuff that's come out about this, it just came out yesterday between Lloyd's and High Trust, and it's very press releasey. So I don't know exactly in which one of those categories this would fall into in terms of how both of these companies are making money off of this product or offering. But I think you can kind of finagle your way in there and figure it out. Um, so how does Lloyd's make money? I'm going to go into this really shortly because I think that we all have an idea of how how insurance companies make money. But they have many revenue streams from their cyber insurance business. They have underwriting profits, fees, investment income from what's called float, which is the premiums that extras that they have that they can invest. But the one thing about cyber insurance, and Lloyd's is a very large player in this market, it's one of the top 5 at any given time. Um, they One of the problems in the cyber insurance market, as I think many people can surmise from having read the news over the last few years, is that there's just not as much data for these claims as with other types of more traditional insurance, whether it's flood insurance or health insurance. There's just a lot more precedent and hundreds of years of data in some cases to lean on, and we've only had the last few decades of data for cyber insurance. And so you see, we're getting much better at that. Many companies, I think, have come to have a sufficient amount of data from most experts who talk about this field say that that's starting to happen. But there are still a lot of black swan type events, or the possibility of that can happen in this space. There are some insurers who have left the cyber insurance market entirely because of the unpredictability of the claims, especially around things like ransomware. There are also the optics of all of the ransomware payouts that have happened. That's they are often publicly disclosed, and the insurance companies obviously don't like that. Cyber insurance is just sort of not one of the not as reliable a market as some other insurance. I'm sorry, I got a little bit distracted by a phone ringing. Um, so whether Lloyd's pays out their claims depends completely on whether they know that the company that is paying their premium has adequate controls in place. And so what they're proposing with this new consortium is to give companies that go through what is essentially a launch an insurance physical to back up what they've written down as they did the application, and see if there's any discrepancy there. And one of the really interesting things about cyber insurance that also doesn't really happen in other types of corporate insurance is that many companies, especially companies that for whatever reason don't have an internal cybersecurity expert, that you might call a CISO or something else, law firms, a lot of big law firms don't have those types of people, even though they're getting an enormous amount of revenue and they do need cyber insurance. They don't have somebody internally who's going to sign off on the insurance. And when you make the insurance application, you have to make all kinds of attestations about how secure your environment is. So the CEO may be the one filling this out if it's a lucrative startup of some sort. So the person filling it out obviously has a motivation to lie, and if they are not lying and being dishonest, they certainly have a motivation to um not look too deeply into the problem, and they might not have a really comprehensive understanding of the problem. So insurance companies have a difficult time determining that this company has a stance that looks as secure as a really big banks. Like, what they're attesting to is really good. They've signed it under the penalty of perjury, and then they get a ransomware attack, and the investigation by the insurance company to determine whether they lied on their application it's very difficult to do that investigation. So I like I said, I could go down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, but it's just a very interesting industry to be in, and that's why I think that ideas like this, we're going to see a lot more of them in the coming year. And that's because as part of this consortium, if a company gets their certification through um, through High Trust, then they of course get a discount on their premiums. In one of the press releases, it said that was a discount of 25%. I don't know where that applies within their typical offering, but that's a significant discount. Um, you can kind of see how it's a win-win. They get the physical. They have a higher degree of certainty that what the company thinks its security posture is accurate, and that they won't have a major accident, as many insurance companies have had. Um, I think that you'll continue to see, as there's so many different players in the cyber insurance marketplace, there'll be more consolidation. And in this case, I think you'll see a lot of companies coming together around this idea where, uh, if you're the insurer, let's put some other things in place that give a break to the purchaser, but also give us a much higher degree of understanding. And again, metrics and statistics that go along with being able to certify that you're hewed to those correct frameworks. Um, I think it's a very interesting proposition. I want to see kind of some more of that. There is a little bit of a flip side to this, and this will be the last I talk about it because I think insurance is probably a bit of a dry topic. But the flip side is that for most companies that actually need to have a cyber insurance policy, the the cost is almost negligible in a way. It's an add-on once you are big enough to need it. Um, there's so many different things. I would like to see how much 25% is, and is it going to make people want to change up that environment? Will it make a difference for companies that have a good deal and they don't want to go into something where they're um, possibly exposing themselves. I'm not saying in a dishonest way, but we all know what reality is like. So I think that that's maybe something that makes me not as excited. I also will just be kind of curious to see the adoption of some of these different certifications and which one has the most meaning. And I think that's something that would probably be good for another conversation because there's a lot of these certifications out there. It's difficult to tell which ones um, are offering a meaningful benefit to the companies that are certified. All right. Moving on, we are going to be talking a little bit more about mergers and acquisitions, and in this case, the Sophos acquisition of Dell SecureWorks. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having a slight technical issue that I just had to repair there. So, going back to this acquisition, I'm going to keep this part brief. I think we've had a lot of talk of different things, but so Sophos. For those who aren't as familiar, they're a privately held company, um, and they announced this year, a little bit earlier this year, in October 2024, that they were going to acquire SecureWorks. The transaction was in all cash, valued at about $859 million. Under the agreement, and I'm just reading here from Yahoo Finance press release, so this is just simple stuff. Under the agreement, SecureWorks shareholders, including Dell Technologies, which we all know of SecureWorks as being with Dell, will receive $8.50 per share in cash, a 28% premium over the 90-day volume weighted average price prior to the announcement. The acquisition is expected to close early in the year, so I'll be interested to hear if there's anything more. And what they were bringing on board was primarily the XDR platform to help with their managed security services division. And so I'm going to go a little bit into that. But first, I want to talk about Dell SecureWorks itself and its history. So historically, Dell SecureWorks is one of the earliest entries into a comprehensive um, cybersecurity solution. It was actually founded in the late 90s. So I believe scale subsidiary in 2016, and then became a publicly traded company through its own IPO um, when Dell went public. So I'm sorry, yeah. So in October 2024, Sophos, like I said, they're a privately held company. They're backed by Thoma Bravo. They acquired SecureWorks for 859 million, and part of this was meant to augment their managed security services business with what was called Tacos, one of Dell's, or I'm sorry, Taegis, their XDR platform. So, what is XDR? In the world of managed security services providers, the MSSPs, and their sort of small step cousin, MDR, which is managed detection and response, um, XDR is extended detection and response. It's sort of an in between of those two primary offerings. So if you have had any sort of role that involved having to hire cybersecurity professionals within a business, you'll understand what an MSSP is. It might not have been called that, but it's just the third party. So if you had a technology company, if it was a smaller business and you have a technology company that is providing your cybersecurity for you, that is coming through typically an MSSP. They have it's completely managed with their own employees. And MDR is simply detecting and responding to immediate vulnerabilities and taking out a lot of the full management of it. A lot of it is more automated. XDR, like I said, is something in between the middle of that. So part of XDR, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds too. I think I could have written this out a little bit better, but um, in XDR, they have a couple of key components, a lot more automation and AI. They try to centralize all through an XDR, the software involved. They improve visibility by taking all of your cybersecurity tools. So if you're using several different types of tools, they allow you to look at all of them at once. They allow that for the security operator, the analyst. They do a more unified incident detection and response. So they bring together all of the detection and response tools. This is one of the I think often the differentiators, there's some bleed in all of these categories, but one of the differentiators between XDR and MDR is that they allow you to do the incident analysis from one platform instead of having to do it in several different platforms. And then, essentially, it works in all the similar ways that you would be used to. Um, Now, as opposed to what you might know as an EDR, um, the which is an endpoint detection and response, uh, that is sort of the most bare bones of nothing that is managed. So with XDR, the X is, although it's an E word, it does stand for extended. It extends to multiple layers, including um, endpoint, network, and cloud. So when you're getting endpoint detection and response, workstations, laptops only. In XDR, you're getting many different of those. So um, Dell SecureWorks founded a great long time ago. One of the key components of this, and Sophos is absolutely a huge and growing name in the field, and um, one of the really interesting things I think that comes along with this, and it goes to the conversation earlier about insurance, is that the what comes along with Dell SecureWorks is what one of the most difficult to value things in this entire industry, which is an enormous amount of data and experience. And if you have many of these companies, they do, at some point, like all technology companies, over time, they might wear down and become smaller than they were before or less influential. But there is still this enormous amount of data that really can't be found anywhere else that exists within these companies. And I believe that not only does, their tool that works well, the tool that uh, Sophos will be, integrating, and that'll be the key thing is one thing, and I think it's great for their suite. It's, all of the extra data that they're going to be bringing in and just enriching their entire business, with this company that's operated nonstop since 1998. How many cybersecurity companies are there that can claim that they have that much background? I thought it was a really interesting move, and it made me wonder. And it's something that I would also be writing about a little bit later. What other companies are there like Dell SecureWorks that are let's call them cyber classics, the classic cars of the the cybersecurity world? How many more of those are there, and what do they have that has value, that we might not realize? Only because, thinking about what's selling right now, but what is those long data histories? I would be very interested to look more into that. If you have any questions or comments, if I got anything wrong, I meandered there a little bit at the beginning of doing an explanation on XDR. I think I should have done some better notes, but whatever. We'll always aim to be better. Please reach out if you have any questions for me. I have a new sponsor who's going to be coming on board next week, and we'll be very excited to talk about that. And I will also be doing some weekend episodes. So looking forward to hearing and seeing you guys around. Please take care. Best of luck for the weekend. Bye bye.